It's a beautiful day for a ball game and a beautiful day for the Franklin Show with America's favorite adopted pup, Franklin Delano Roosevelt Lloyd Wright Sinatra Seltzer, and his friend and favorite Franklin dog adopter, Michael Seltzer. I'm your announcer, Ernie Harwell. And now, coming to you live from the house by the side of the road, here's Franklin.
Wow, thank you everybody. Great audience. Great to be back. Thanks to my fabulous band. Welcome to the Franklin Show. And what a show we have for you today. I've got some great guests. Josh Linkner, entrepreneur, spectacular interview with Josh, and Alan Bernstein, a man who created a documentary about Mad Magazine, coming right up. Thank you everybody. Welcome back. It's good to see everybody.
Hi, I'm Smokey Bear, and I'm an assistant to help you prevent wildfires.
Dude, I've got this. I've been camping since I was 5 years old.
But I am a camping influencer.
You know what? I'll bet you $5. Okay. Assistant Smokey, what is the best way to put out a campfire?
To put out a campfire, drown with water, stir, drown again. Then make sure the fire is out cold by feeling with the back of your hand.
Wait, really?
I'll take the $5.
Hey, thanks everybody. What a great audience we have tonight. And thanks to my fabulous band, Doc Severinsen, man, I love you. Love you. I am here and very, very proud to introduce our first guest on today's Franklin Show. He is an award-winning author, a lecturer, an entrepreneur, and a Franklin villager. I'm very proud to introduce Josh Linkner. Josh, welcome to the Franklin Show.
Thanks so much. Great to be with you, my friend and neighbor.
It's great to be with you too. We share so much in common, aside from being neighbors, aside from being entrepreneurial geniuses and best-selling authors. Of course, I've got a number of books, as do you. But we also have a lot of other things that we love, like our puppies. Now, Franklin, of course, is the star of our show. I'm just, his co-host. And you have Da Vinci, who I'm so disappointed isn't here with you today, but we would have loved to have had Da Vinci. Frank always likes to have guests who have puppies. But we'll save Da Vinci for our next show. So let's start at the beginning, which for me is an unbelievable marketing company that you created about 20 some years ago. And by the way, I'm a retired marketing guy, in case you didn't know that. So I have a great appreciation, and I had a lot of friends that worked for you. And so E-Prize in Pleasant Ridge was the hottest ticket in town. I mean, people were lined up to go to work for E-Prize. Am I right?
Thank you for saying that. We're very proud of what we built. I started that company in 1999, and it was very much trying to break the mold. Everyone was focused at the time on internet advertising, and instead of being like the 600th internet advertising company, we thought, could we be the first internet promotion company? And we did. We created a very fun and vibrant culture. It was a cool place to work that supported people's creativity and built a fun business. We did have a great recruiting capacity. And one of the things I'm most proud of is where our alum have landed. Some of them have gone on to start and sell companies. They've been the CEO of big companies. They've worked in big tech. And as I hear, they've even run historic music labels.
Yeah. Well, I guess we should let that cat out of the bag. My son, Justin, wanted so desperately to work for you. And when he was living here in Franklin, he was on the list. And Lindsay Rosen, of course, your personnel director, who's still with you all these years later, kept saying, Justin, hang in there. We're going to find a spot for you. Just hang in there. Well, Justin got tired of waiting around and he moved to Los Angeles. And I'd say within 2 or 3 months, he got a call from Kaiser Yang, who was running the LA office, and with references from people that we both know. Justin started working for E-Prize in Los Angeles and loved it. He was there for about 5 years. And then he got the opportunity to join Capitol Records. So he is grateful. I'm grateful to you for that great experience. He grew up in my marketing business, and so he had a lot of passion for marketing. But you guys did such unique and creative, and you worked with the biggest companies in the world. My God, everybody did business with ePrize, right?
Yeah, we were very lucky. I mean, it started out not that way. We were started out by
Mhm.
servicing these .com companies that in the crash of 2000 evaporated. So we had to reframe our approach and reimagine the business and started going after Coca-Cola and Procter and Gamble and Nike. And that sounds good, but it was a bit of a challenge to get there. But we ended up figuring it out. And it's funny, Justin runs Blue Note, which is the most important and historic jazz label in the world. And that's kind of what we did. That's kind of how I built the whole business, is playing jazz. My background, I'd started a couple companies before that, but I started my career as a jazz guitarist. And whether or not people like listening to jazz, it's this really beautiful and dynamic art form where you're both composing and performing simultaneously. And so what jazz musicians have to do is navigate uncertainty, and they have to pivot and adapt using situational awareness and active listening. And there's co-creation going on all the time, and they're pushing the boundaries. They're improvising to deliver the best possible outcomes. And so it's really funny for me personally. Jazz was my business school. Jazz is how I learned to build and grow companies. And again, I'm so grateful that Justin's out there continuing to move the movement forward.
Yeah, he's just got to get rid of some of the dead weight, like Nora Jones, and then he can get Josh Linkner on the label. so yeah, you studied music, right? I mean, that was your passion.
Yeah, growing up here in Detroit, I would very early. I would sneak into Baker's Keyboard Lounge, and half the time they'd let me sit in, half the time they'd throw me in the alley. But I was playing for money at maybe 13 years old. I got a deal from agreement from Wayne State University when I was in high school. I would leave high school early every day, and I'd drive downtown, and I was in the Wayne State Jazz Band. So I just fell in love with this art form very quickly, and then ultimately went to the Berklee College of Music in Boston to continue to develop those skills. And I still play pretty regularly. I'm still very passionate about music. I've played over 1,000 concerts around the world. But even when I'm not playing guitar, I feel like I'm still playing jazz. When I'm in a meeting, when I'm investing in a company, when we're trying to navigate uncertainty, to me, it's kind of the same thing.
That's very cool. Very interesting. So now bring us to the present. What specifically are you working on, focused on now? I know about Platypus. I know about that. You've got so many different organizations that you're responsible for. What is, want to talk a little bit about those?
Yeah, I sort of have three buckets of professional activity. You might say three full-time jobs, or so my wife would say that. One bucket is around my body of work around innovation. I've written 4 books, New York Times bestseller, et cetera. And so I speak and write and research human creativity, mainly to apply it, not for painting on canvas, but to apply it in the business world to drive outcomes. As part of that bucket of activity, Kaiser Yang, who you mentioned earlier, runs our small consulting practice called Platypus Labs, where we advise some of the largest companies in the world on how to build a culture of innovation and how to imbue their companies organization-wide with inventive thinking and creative problem solving. So we work with companies like Cardinal Health and CIBC Bank and Honda and others, helping them develop this capability, which I believe is the most important leadership capability in business today. The second bucket of professional activity, I started a company a few years back, which is called Impact 11. Impact 11 is a development community for thought leaders, authors, experts, and professional speakers. We essentially help them build and scale a speaking practice and help them monetize their expertise in a number of different ways. And that's actually since expanded not only to serving hundreds of professional speakers, but also helping corporate executives become better communicators, become more persuasive, more effective, more inspirational in their high stakes moments. The third bucket, and I can go as deep as you want on any of this, is a venture fund that I started called Mudita Venture Partners, MUDITA. Mudita is a Sanskrit term, which means taking joy in other people's success. So when I hear about your son, Justin, running Blue Note Records, that fills me with joy because I'm excited for his success. Anyway, I named the fund Mudita because many venture funds are ruthless. They're trying to cut people down and take what they can get. And ours is different. We're outcome focused, but it's around lifting people up. And so this is a fund built with compassion and empathy and generosity and kindness. And so the fund, we invest in early stage tech companies, mostly B2B software companies, that we think are not only going to create economic gain, but also do good in the world. And our goal is to not only drive economic rewards, but also to really make an impact on humanity. And so we won't invest in a company unless we think that if it's successful, it will be a net positive to the world. So that's me. Innovation bucket, professional speaking and thought leadership bucket, and then venture capital.
All of that innovation coming out of Franklin, Michigan. I mean, that's just incredible. That's what makes our community such an enviable community, why we're so proud, why I continue to have such a passion for our village, people like you. So I'm so in awe of your talent and ability. So you do a lot of speaking, right? You're on a lot of speaking tours?
I do. I just looked it up. Over the last 15 years, I've delivered over 1,300 paid keynotes. And to me, it's not about the applause or money or whatever. It's about you're essentially in the aha business. And so I'm helping, to help people reframe previous beliefs and patterns, to discover new ones, and to open their eyes to new possibility. And so it's really, it's deeply intrinsically rewarding to be able to make a difference in people's lives and businesses. So I love doing it. I'm very passionate and committed to the practice. And but as a result, yes, I've been, you name a big company, I've probably spoken there. And so it's really been an honor to not only to share, but also to learn. I get to go into major banks like RBC or Citibank, or big groundbreaking healthcare companies like Johnson & Johnson or Abbott Labs. And in preparation for my remarks, I get to learn from these incredible leaders and all about their businesses. And so I have kind of this interesting view across multiple industries, which is also deeply intrinsically rewarding.
Yeah, I would think so. And do you publish a list of your speaking engagements so that, are they open to the public, or are these all corporate events?
I don't publish a list, and most often they're not open to the public. Usually my typical opportunity is, go speak for a Fortune 25 company to their most senior leaders. They're doing their strategy kickoff for the year, and the CEO speaks, and then I might speak after him or her. So no, unfortunately, most of them are closed events. There's lots of me on YouTube, more than probably most people want, but those events themselves are closed.
TED Talks, I would imagine you've done a few of those.
A couple TED Talks years ago. And I've had the great honor to be able to be in the idea business and to share insights with others. Again, it gets back to play and jazz for me. It's to be able to discover something through hard work and tinkering and making mistakes, and then to be able to share that thing with others. It's really an honor and a gift.
There are a lot of parallels, aren't there? There really are. And so what's upcoming? Anything exciting you care to share? Upcoming new that has not been, that we can break some news with here on the Franklin Show?
I'm continuing to do all three of those buckets of activity. I'm still a proud Franklin resident and intend to do that for the rest of my family's days on the planet. We just love Franklin, Michigan. One thing is kind of cool. I'll just share, as mentioned, when we invest in companies, we want to do well and do good, both economically and also for humanity. And about 80% of our capital goes to outside companies. There's an entrepreneur, company's up and running, we invest in and hopefully help out a bit. But 20% of our capital is called Mudita Studios, where we are both the funder and the founder. In other words, we develop our own ideas. We have a very rigorous sort of laboratory process. Most of the ideas don't make it all the way through, but the ones that do, we then fund and launch. So I'll share one that's really cool. It's called Sign AI. We learned that over 500,000 people in the United States alone, sign language, American ASL, is their primary language. And then another 1.5 million people a day interact with sign language, caregivers, family members, etc. The problem is translation services are few and far between and very expensive. So if a governor is giving an announcement, there might be someone signing next to him or her, but if you're in a Zoom meeting, not so much. We developed a technology that is bi-directional real-time ASL translation, which means that let's say you and I were on a Zoom call, there could be a third box, my face, your face, and then an avatar, like a computer, although it looks like a human. I could sign to it and it would speak to you. You could speak to it and it would sign to me. So we're providing this stream of activity where people don't have to translate or read a transcript. They can communicate in real time across sign language to a spoken word language. And we're really proud of that. I think it's going to be a big commercial success, but more importantly, I think it's going to change a lot of lives. Imagine in a first responder situation or coming to a hospital or even in a business meeting or customer service experience, to be able to provide that speaks it in a native language to those that need it, to me feels very fulfilling.
That's spectacular, man. I can't even begin to comprehend the depth of that kind of an operation. That's truly innovative. Well, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. I've always wanted to meet you. I'm sorry we haven't met before. Last question. Who's your favorite council member in the village of Franklin? Any name come to mind?
The only one that, well, my number 1, 2, 3, and 4 are Michael, and Michael. Just to put that out there.
That's how many times I've run for re-election. Hey, man, thank you so much for joining us, Josh. It was a real pleasure. I really appreciate you taking the time. All my best to your family and to Da Vinci. On the next time, we need to have Da Vinci on camera with Franklin.
Well, that sounds great. Look forward to seeing you in the neighborhood, and appreciate the great work that you continue to contribute.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay, everybody, thank you. We'll be right back with our next guest. Hang in there. What a great time we're having here today.
When it comes to disasters and emergencies, it's not a matter of if, but when.
I'm relying on luck, but who knows if it'll be on my side.
Let's prepare so we all have a better story to tell. Take control at ready.gov/olderadults.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Thank you. I have the distinct honor of introducing to you a man I've not met before, but I'm enthralled with his story. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my guest, Alan Bernstein. Alan, welcome to the Franklin Show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I am awestruck by your story, and I'll tell you why. Growing up as a kid in the 60s, I fell in love with Mad Magazine. I would race up to the drugstore as soon as I heard that there was a new issue out, and for years collected Mad magazines. And my life's ambition was to either write a Mad magazine, which I ultimately did. I created one called Mike Magazine. More about that later. But and go to 485 Madison Avenue in New York and meet that usual gang of idiots, as they call themselves, which I never was able to do. But
no, you never got out there?
I never did. And for the life of me, I don't know why. But I obviously big fan. So when I heard that you had created this incredible documentary,
I started reading Mad at a very early age, which explains why right now I read on a 3rd grade level.
I mean, Mad Magazine is the only magazine that I ever read cover to cover.
I never did my homework. When I read Mad Magazine, I remember reading things and just in my mind going, whoa, whoa.
Mad Magazine was the first place that really mocked people hard.
I'd never seen that kind of humor before, that kind of irreverent comedy, and it really changed something in my brain.
They weren't afraid of anyone. Mad went after everyone.
It inspired a lot of people to want to make comedy.
Mad was a textbook for us, how to make fun of things.
Mad is not good. Our readers are not smart. Mad is cheap. The quality is poor. It's stupid. That's our brand.
Most parents didn't approve. And they thought it was corrupting their minds. And in a way it was, in a good way.
And I read about it in the press. One thing led to another. I found out that you were associated with Carrie Lazat, who's my executive producer here on the Franklin Show, which is the #1 show on cable, by the way. And I said, well, you got to hook me up because I have to have this man on my show. So I'm so happy to have you, and so happy that we share that in common. Tell me a little bit about you and how it led yourself to this documentary creation.
Well, I would say my entryway into Mad Magazine was really probably no different than just about anyone else who discovered it. For me, it was kind of a random happenstance. But once I had it and saw what it was, and then learned that it wasn't just a one-time thing, but it would come out regularly, I don't know if it's in my DNA to have that kind of collector gene, but it kicked in, and I became a huge fan of Mad, and both in reading it and in collecting it. I've spent a couple dollars, as you can see, on things over the years, and over time, my work, I went into the filmmaking field, and over time, as I tell it, I just kept waiting for someone better than me to make a documentary on Mad, and I, quite frankly, became tired of reading obituaries of the artists and writers who I grew up reading, and decided to do it myself.
What a unbelievable story. I mean, I am also one who follows my passions. For instance, this TV program that we've created. But I've got a lot of crazy hobbies myself. But that is a remarkable story. And so it's actually interesting that no one has produced a documentary about Mad Magazine. And so how grateful are we all to you? So where did you start the process? How did you decide you were going to do this? And what route did you take in terms of approvals? Is this an unauthorized documentary?
It is officially an unauthorized story of Mad Magazine, which means that we do not have the official, I guess, quote unquote, legal blessing of DC Comics, who runs Mad Magazine, but they know of us. And I mean, they were kind enough to let me interview many of the Mad employees at the Mad offices over a few different interviews. So I think in this regard, their silence has been a blessing, if you will.
I always say it's better to ask for forgiveness than for permission. So.
Yes, yeah, which is a wonderful phrase until the forgiveness isn't enough, and then the legal team is sent after you. But so far, that hasn't happened, and let's hope it stays that way.
Well, and
I don't see why they would, because this movie is nothing but a tribute and a celebration of Mad and everyone involved.
And I have to say, I have to apologize for not being there for the premiere.
I noticed you were missing. I did spot that.
At the Redford Theater, which is where I grew up. I mean, the first movies that I ever saw as a kid, and the Three Stooges, were all at the Redford Theater. I grew up in Northwest Detroit, so had I been in Michigan, I would have certainly attended. So tell me how that evening went. How was that attended? Well,
it was terrific. I had a premiere in New York a couple months earlier, back in August, and that was special for a couple of reasons. One, it was the first true screening of the movie, and also we had a number of people who either worked at Mad or had family who had worked at Mad in attendance, and so that was kind of the trial by fire, and fortunately everyone seemed to really enjoy it, and I got many compliments, and that was amazing. But to bring it home, to show it in Detroit, to show it at the Redford, which is a theater that I've gone to for many years, and quite frankly was the very first theater I even thought of when there was even the possibility of showing it here, and to have so many family and friends and people who worked on it while we were in production. It was, as they say, off the hook. It was a great party. It was a lot of fun.
How long did it take you to produce the film?
My first interview was about 16 years ago. Jeez. So if we're going by the, I suppose, Gregorian calendar, 16 years. Yeah, so it took a while.
Who was the first interview?
The first interview was Al Feldstein, who was the editor of Mad from the mid-50s until the mid-80s. So nearly 30 years, he was the editor who really made Mad, put Mad on the map the way we came to know it and love it. He was in the Metro Detroit area. He was at Eastern Michigan University giving a presentation, interestingly enough, on the history of the Alfred E. Neuman image. It was an exhibit at Eastern Michigan University, put together by actually a good friend of mine who was a fellow Mad magazine collector. And he had been kind of doing his scholarly approach to the history of the Alfred image, and he invited Al Feldstein in to talk about it. And while he was there, I was fortunate enough to sit him down and shoot my first interview. And it was run and gun. It was borrow a camera and a microphone, some lights, and go to it. And once we had that one done, it was kind of like, okay, we're doing this. Let's start making the phone calls.
So 16 years ago, you had the first inclination that this is what you wanted to do. That's fantastic.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then you happened to come to Detroit, so that made it convenient. So who else among the major staff were you able to get to meet throughout the years that you were working on it?
The goal was to interview as many artists, writers, and editors who were still alive and interested in talking as possible. Whether or not they ended up in the movie, I don't want to say was irrelevant, but the main goal was to get their stories down and on video, and then go from there. But unfortunately, so many of them were interested in speaking with me. I think many of them, I don't know, in my research, I never saw many interviews with people other than the main staff at MAD and some of the true legendary artists like Al Jaffe. But so my goal was to interview everyone. And if you were a MAD fan, from the artists, we interviewed Al Jaffe, we interviewed Jack Davis, we interviewed Sergio Aragonés.
Wow.
And
all his margins. I love
his little margins, yes.
Yeah.
And Mort Drucker we interviewed, who was the absolute king of the movie satire and the caricature, and Angelo Torres, who was right up there with him in doing the TV satires. And then from the writing side, we interviewed Arnie Kogan and Larry Siegel and Stan Hart and Frank Jacobs. And, we got the full mixing of the people who were there from the beginning. And,
did you get to Bill Gaines?
Bill Gaines unfortunately passed away in the early 90s, and I wasn't able to interview him. And there were a couple other artists who I was close to interviewing and just weren't well enough, and unfortunately passed away before I could get to them.
Dave Berg, by any chance?
Dave Berg. And Dave Berg and Don Martin and Antonio Prohias, who was the originator of Spy vs. Spy.
Right.
Those were the three artists and George Woodbridge was another artist who passed away in the early 2000s. And it was those basically four artists who once after the fourth one, that was the kick in the pants of like, these people are not waiting for me or anyone else to talk to them, unfortunately. So those were the four that got me going.
Didn't Al Jaffe just pass away?
He did pass away a little over a year ago.
Yeah.
And
he was close to 100 years old, as I
He was 102, I believe.
Wow.
He was doing Al Jaffe. For those not aware, he was the man behind the so many things, but mainly the fold-in at the back of issue of every Mad magazine.
Right.
There was a segment called the fold-in, and he was doing those up until he was 99 years old. So I think he holds the Guinness, don't quote me, but he essentially holds the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest working cartoonist.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was such a wonderful treat to pick up the next issue of Mad Magazine. And the satires were spectacular. The lighter side that Dave Berg would do, the Don Martin cartoons. I mean, so much a part of our childhood. And they would come out with those annual special editions multiple times a year. I think there were a number of different special
Mhm.
editions. And even in recent years, although they were mostly reprints, every now and again I would pick up a copy, and it would just be such a pleasure to read and to relive some of those great nostalgic moments that we all grew up with. What a
And that's kind of what's interesting about it is for people in our age range, and older, and definitely younger. Mad holds a nostalgic feel for people like us. It was instrumental in shaping our senses of humor, but also to a degree shaping our senses of politics and just getting around in the world. And that in a way is kind of lost. I think the nostalgia of Mad kind of is the first thing we go to. Oh, I remember growing up with that, or my brother or my sister read it when I was younger. But you can't forget why we read it. And it was hilarious. It was funny on every level, from the pure stupid to a degree of satire that is, I think, sorely missing. Except, I shouldn't say that. There's so many outlets now with the Daily Show and things like that. The Onion. It's still there, but it's not true. It's missing. It's missing the voice that brought us to this, which was Mad. And yes, Mad is still published, and currently, as I understand it, a couple of years back, they went to an all reprint format. So the magazine was put out on a regular monthly basis or so, but it was all reprints except for a new cover and a new fold-in. And slowly over the last couple of years, they've been filtering in new material in each issue. And the rumor I heard is that the new issue about to be released has 10 pages of new material, to go along with the 30 plus pages of reprinted stuff that we've read already. But Mad is they're trying. They are trying.
If it's done in the vein that it was done in before, which was pretty much non-offensive, absolutely non-political, for the most part, but always fun. Always fun and satirical. All right, so now tell me about, we got to wrap this up, but tell me about the movie and how people are going to be able to see it. Those of us who were unfortunately not available to see it at the Redford Theater, where will we be able to see it in the future?
Well, as I understand it, we have a distribution deal in place. And what that means is, first and foremost, it will be streaming. And I'm told initially on Amazon Prime and Apple Movies. I don't know when. I don't know if the deal has officially been secured or signed. But I know it's heading to those streaming services. Hopefully it can expand to other services like your Netflixes and Hulu's of the world. I believe physical media, that ancient technology like DVDs and Blu-rays, are in the mix. And beyond that, anything else I tell you will be made up, because that's all I know so far.
All right. Well, the name of the movie is When We Went Mad. And do you have a website or a Facebook page or any?
We have a Facebook page. I recommend that Facebook page because the website is as high technology as early 2000s MySpace. It is not exactly moderated or monitored regularly.
All right, so we'll put up your
Facebook page.
We'll put up your Facebook page on the screen. Our technicians will get that on there so people can keep in touch and follow the progress of this great project. I am so grateful for you not only taking the time to be on the Franklin Show and sharing this, but for actually following your dream and getting it done. Kudos to you, Alan, for following your heart. And we need more people like you, especially on nostalgic things like Mad Magazine.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Alan, thanks for being here. Appreciate you. We'll be right back, everybody. Thanks for tuning into The Franklin Show.
When it comes to making plans, you are the best. The same way you plan each detail for those moments, start planning to protect you and your loved ones from a natural disaster. Protecting your family is the best plan you can make.
Well, thank you, everybody. What a great show today. Thanks to my great guests, Josh Linkner, what great stories, and Alan Bernstein, Mad Magazine documentarian. What a wonderful cast of guests, and what a great audience you were. Thanks for being here tonight. Look forward to seeing you again next week on The Franklin Show. Good night, everybody.